Get ready.
All right, so this was a welcome party for a wedding. Basically, all of the out-of-towners came in. They had like a cookout / dinner the night before the wedding, and oddly enough, this on-site cook was brought about by a video of me cooking for someone for a graduation party. The gentleman, the groom, husband, saw my video. He reached out. I was close enough to him, only about 45 minutes, almost an hour away, and we were able to make it happen. So once I got on site, I talked to, that was actually the bride that I was talking to there. She was letting me know where I needed to set up or where I could set up. And at this point, I'm kind of surveying the land, seeing where everything is, and saying, all right, well, let me figure out where I want to put the grill so that I can cook everything. I brought the weed burning torch to get the fire started. And you can see on the front of the trailer, there are two 30-pound bags of lump charcoal. This is the first time I ever used that lump charcoal, and yeah, left a little bit to be desired. So we're going to get the tailgate down off of the trailer, get the grill unhooked. No need to carry the charcoal when the grill can do it. So let's roll that in place. I wanted the grill, so that table that you see in the background there was where they were going to have the hot dogs, hamburgers, and food set up, as well as they had condiments, plates, forks, knives, as well as lettuce, tomatoes, and cheese. They had basically like a burger station, but if you will, like a taco station, but for burgers. So I moved in a little closer on where I was. I forgot a tripod, so I was kind of having to use some of the things that were out and about. So there was a pole that I was able to stick my camera on, and I was able to film. So I apologize for not having the best angles, but this was more or less just to try to show you guys what's going on. And the voiceover will help you to understand what it is I'm thinking about or my thought process when I'm doing different things. So yes, I use lighter fluid. I use lighter fluid to try to help get everything going at the same time, so I'm not focused on one particular part of the charcoal with the weed burner. One of the things that you cannot see or are not seeing very well is there were lots of little teeny sparks and bits coming off of that charcoal. Actually, I have a few burns on my arms from some of the hot embers that were coming off of that charcoal. But not for nothing, it started really quickly and it cooked really well. This entire process of me getting the charcoal going was all of maybe 2 or 3 minutes. That was when I had to move my car, I believe, with the car in the trailer. I went inside, talked to the bride and one of the, bridesmaids or the maids of honor. I don't know how that thing works, but that's the groom there. He and I was basically thanking him for having me out, and he was telling me how glad he was that it worked out and I was able to come and take care of this for him. So I'm getting the grill set up, and I start unloading everything. That was a box of buns. This cook was 120 hamburgers and 144 hot dogs, as well as 20 Impossible burgers. So that was me getting, like I said, some of the boxes of buns. So there's more buns. And that table is one of the tables I have. And I'm starting to just pull my things out of the car. And I found that the 2 tables is pretty much what I need. I can do it with 1 table, but when I have 2 tables, I don't have to have everything on top of each other. Of course, this is self-proclaimed crazy uncle. That's what he told me he was. I can't remember his name, but he told me he lived in Annapolis and he was the bride's crazy uncle. So now I'm starting to get everything set up. Obviously I have the grill going, and I moved position to get you guys in a little closer. All right, time to get suited, put the apron on. And first things first, whenever I'm doing a on-site cook, I start with the veggie burgers and or / in this instance, Impossible burgers. I bought a pack of full pans and a pack of half catering pans, and they ended up needing some full pans. That's why I usually bring extra pans with me, just in case. You never know. So first up, those Impossible burgers. You see I use the cotton gloves as liners to help with the heat, and I get those Impossible burgers laid out. They are weird, and yeah, they're weird. Not my cup of tea, but I'm not everybody's cup of tea either. This is, I can't remember if that was one of the neighbors or someone, but she was bringing things back and forth, and she was telling me that everything smelled good so far. And I was like, okay, but it was just the charcoal. Yeah, so you saw I held up the Beyond or Impossible burgers, Beyond Beef, what have you. Stay hydrated. So when I'm cooking the Impossible burgers and things like that, I try to have a separate spatula. So that spatula is a little different than the spatula that I use for the whole deal. You just saw me take in beans. Those were the baked beans. I do vegetarian beans, or I did vegetarian beans for them today, because of the fact that they requested some Impossible burgers. The beans, usually if you're having an event, you have brisket, I will put brisket into the beans, but because of the fact that they requested or asked for Impossible burgers, I kept those beans vegetarian. All right, so I'm just kind of flipping these things over, and I flipped these burgers over way more than I needed to, but the reason I flipped them over as much as I did is because I didn't want them to, burn on one side or the other. So as the grill is coming up to temperature is usually the best time I find to cook those. I'm down there talking to the groom, and it's so funny. I knew where the camera was, so I stood back to make sure that I was in frame of the camera and that I could see it. He was laying out the burger and hot dog buns on the table. I ended up going and kind of moving some of those off to create more room for the food that was going on the table. But these burgers did not cook very fast because, we were just getting started. So I was okay with that. Also, having the top open helps the grill come up to overall temperature that much faster. I think I might have hit the camera and repositioned you, but nonetheless. Coming up, I dropped one of these burgers, and there it is. There's the drop. That's the devil's cut. I move it out of the way, stick it under the grill. I feel like it's almost bad luck. If you drop something while you're cooking, don't pick it up, because if you pick it up off of the ground, something else will replace it. I don't know how or why, but these things actually started producing a little bit more fire. I didn't really question it. I just took them off the grill because they were ready. But those last one or two get kissed by the flame a little bit. That's another one of the, oh no, that's the groom. Nope, I'm sorry. That's another one of the uncles. He told me that he said, oh, my brother came and talked to you. That was the crazy uncle, is the one he was referring to. He said, oh, I heard, you doing big things, doing good things over here. And I'm like, well, I sure hope so. So this is where I moved some of the buns off of the table to create more space once I saw how much room there wasn't going to be after I put everything, or was going to put everything out there. All right, it's burger flip time. Those of you guys who love seeing when I flip the burgers out, throw them on the grill like I'm dealing cards, this is your time. I even slowed this down just for you guys. These are hot dogs. So I think I started out with just 1 pack of hot dogs and 20 hamburgers just to try and get ahead of the line, more or less. Everyone, or a good majority of the people who were there were already there at this point. Very informal, very cool party. There was music going on in the background, which is why you don't hear anything from the party. It was, you know, popular music, pop music. So I elected to just do a time lapse as opposed to filming in real time. Getting those hot dogs going, I had them actually on this side of the grill was actually warm, and I ended up later starting to cook them on the far right side of the grill because it was a little cooler. You can see the smoke. It looks like I picked a decent orientation for the grill. The smoke wasn't all in my face or coming back into my face, which was fantastic. The smoke was kind of going east and west of the grill, which was great. There are times where I did still need to stand back because the smoke was coming right up and into my face, like right about here. But for the good majority of the cook, the smoke was going basically east and west of me as opposed to coming south right at me. Getting this first batch of burgers off of the grill into a full catering pan so I can get that over to that table. Hot dogs are done, getting those off. And it was fairly windy, which was helpful and hurtful at the same time. It helped keep the smoke out of my face, but it hurt because it stoked the fire a little bit from time to time. Now, before I take those burgers and hot dogs over that were done, I'm going to go ahead and get the next batch of burgers onto the grill so they can start cooking. Once I got my fire going, once I got to this event, I was asked to be there at 4 p.m. and cook will be on site for 2.5 hours. I started cooking at approximately 4:15 after I got my grill unloaded and figured out where I was going to be, and I was done. I wrapped up and was leaving at 6:15. So when I say the 2.5 hour estimate to cook all of this food was pretty spot on, it was spot on. There was nobody there to, I won't say distract me, but I didn't do very much socializing. Usually, I won't say usually, but more often than not, there are people who end up coming and talking and hanging out by the grill. But this time, I didn't mind it. There wasn't that much of that going on. I closed the lid so I can take the hot dogs and hamburgers down to that table. Yep. Let the groom know, or the bride know. I can't remember who I saw. Oh, that was one of the bridesmaids. I said, hey, you know, can you let the bride and groom know that their burgers and hot dogs are done? If they want to start letting the guests know, they can come and eat. There's more than enough to get people, get people started. This charcoal worked out really well. It wasn't too crazy hot, and it definitely wasn't the worst charcoal I've ever cooked on. It got started really quickly, and I appreciated that. One of the things that I try to do, or more often than not, sometimes what I try to do when I'm using the 5-foot grill table is do a mix of charcoal briquettes, like the Kingford charcoal briquettes, as well as the lump charcoal. The lump charcoal will get the fire going really quickly, and the briquettes will keep the fire going, basically make the fire last a little longer. But in this instance, I used just one 30-pound bag of this lump charcoal, and you see I'm standing off to the side. The smoke was kind of getting to me at that point, but it worked out. These burgers did not take very long, maybe 5 minutes or so. This was one of the aunts of the bride, and when she was standing over my shoulder talking to me, I'm like, oh, she's in front of the camera, and you know, you kind of have to be tactful and nice. So I'm like, oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Let me get over there. I don't want to get this. So I got her to kind of move back just a little bit. So she started taking pictures and other things like that. She said she was taking pictures for her mother, who was not able to attend because she said her mother was in her 80s or 90s and couldn't travel to Maryland for the wedding. So she said she was the official photographer for her mother. She said she was going to live vicariously through her and her pictures. So, like I said, I stood off to the side before she started talking to me. I stood off to the side and you know, posed for some candid pictures, more or less. And then she talked to me for a while. Come to find out, she was actually, while I was standing there talking to her, she asked about vegetarian or vegan or vegetarian options, and I told her there were the Impossible Burgers, as well as all of the sides were vegetarian. They weren't vegan, but they were vegetarian. She was super excited about that. Later in the cook, I warm up a few of those Impossible Burgers for her and someone else. And as the burgers and hot dogs finish, I just kind of take them down little by little and refill the pan where folks were getting their hot dogs and hamburgers out of. So at this point, I probably was about 50 about 50 hot dogs done, and more than 40 hamburgers, probably 60 hamburgers that were done at this point. I can see down on the ground there's a box. Usually when I start cooking hot dogs and hamburgers for on-site events, my trash box becomes that first box of hamburgers that gets emptied out. It's just a way for me to kind of keep the trash all together. And the majority of the trash that I have are the gloves. You see, every time I put on a set of the blue nitrile gloves, is when I'm dealing with the raw food. I do also keep on those cotton gloves. The cotton gloves, just be careful, mindful of what I'm touching, so that I don't touch anything that does not need to be touched with those gloves. And every time I touch raw food again, I use the nitrile gloves. I think this might have been 2 packs of hot dogs because I saw folks getting lined up. And then they had the sides inside that little that covered porch there, and you just saw, or if you want to rewind back, they moved the sides table outside, so everything was all outside. And it was this is like a late summer, early fall day, so it was very, very, I won't say chilly, but it was pretty much perfect. It was like in the low 70s, mid to low 70s, so it wasn't muggy. There was no humidity, no bugs. It was a fantastic evening for this type of event. And I'm just chugging away, getting those hot hamburgers done, getting those hot dogs done. Again, had to stand back there a second. People ask me all the time, how do you deal with all that smoke? Hold my breath. Comment below if you can relate. As I do more and more on-site events, and things are picking up, obviously post-pandemic, I will try to make sure that I bring a tripod and or a canopy where I can set up the camera a little higher and give you guys a bird's eye view of just how things are going with the cook. But this one was pretty simple and easy, and I wanted to make sure that I had the folks in the background in the background. Not everybody appreciates being on camera, so I'm sure a good majority of those folks that were there didn't even know that I was filming. So nonetheless, all in all, it was a great event, great time. So I see 2 boxes on the ground of hamburgers, which means that those were 80 burgers done, and I'm into the last box of 40 burgers. I think I probably put 20 of them up there, or a little more than 20 of them up there at that one time. And I keep meaning or trying to figure out a means to be able to put some sort of clock or timer in the video so you can see what time it is or how long I've been at it. Because I'll be completely honest, I lose track of time when I'm doing these things as well. When I'm there in the moment, it doesn't seem like I've been cooking or standing on my feet for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I just get it done. This is the point I was telling you where I took some of those Impossible burgers and I ended up warming them back up for the bride's aunt. She was completely okay with them being on the grill at the same time as burgers cooking. I just made it a point to not use the same utensils that I was using for the hot dogs and hamburgers that were meat on the hamburgers that were the Impossible burgers. So keep that in mind, those of you guys who are doing these things, when you are cooking, to not use the same utensils for everything. Those people who don't eat certain things or don't want certain things will appreciate that. This lady brought me a fork and she's like, "Oh, this fork dropped on the ground, blah blah blah." And I said, "Well, you kind of have to take that in the house. That's got nothing to do with me. I'm over here just cooking and chugging away on the grill." She's like, "Oh, okay." I said, "You have to talk to one of the bridesmaids or someone in the house there." And this whole thing was at a house that's turned into an event space, which is really dope. It's like not really in the middle of the woods, but it's in the middle of this community. And this house is just a big house, and it has a bunch of land on it. And it is an event space in Montgomery County, Maryland. I never said where we were. There's your Impossible burger. Getting these last couple of stragglers off before I get the new batch on. At this point, I'm almost done. I'm trying to get things wrapped up. Pretty sure this was the last pack of hot dogs. I'm trying to see past myself there. Nope, that was the last pack of hot dogs. And this should be the last, if it's not, it's close to the last batch of burgers. This is I was helping the bridesmaid or one of the bridesmaids backfill the burgers and buns, or the hot dog and burger buns. I let her know that I said, "Hey, once I'm done, I'll bring the rest of the buns under and put them underneath the table." You can see at that table there is a box underneath where the groom had moved some of the burgers and buns originally, but they were out at that point. Or she just didn't know that they were there. Am I the only one that does this? Spins my tongues around on my fingers? Kind of like you would see a old Western, someone spinning a revolver around their finger. I just had to take a step back off of that smoke, and I was like, do 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 do. I was even whistling, and I was spinning it around my finger. Sometimes you gotta do things to keep yourself entertained. But the music was actually pretty good, which was, I won't say surprising, which was a welcome experience. All right, so those are the last of the hot dogs. And we're almost up, almost done. And these are the last of the burgers. I can't remember what she and I were talking about. Oh, she was asking me about the sides, so I had to tell her. I was telling her about the potato salad and the coleslaw. All right, so as you see, I'm picking everything up off of the ground, getting everything cleaned up, taking the trash inside. They had a trash area set up, so I was able to put those things that I used while I was cooking in the house. So this is me talking to the bride and the mother of the bride, and I thank them for having me out. And the bride was telling me that I was a celebrity, that they were able to get a celebrity chef, and I'm like, I'm no chef, I'm just an arsonist who cooks. So. But it was a good time. It was a really great event. And I wished her the best for her wedding the next day. And thanked them again profusely for having me out. Told a couple jokes. And I was telling her about how I used to, do motorcycle stuff. I used to live in Montgomery County, Maryland. And we used to hang out not too far from where we were. So this is, of course, at this point, I'm packing up the car and the trailer. Let's get that ramp down. And I didn't realize it when I parked the trailer, but I didn't leave enough room for me to get the grill up and past the grate, or the lift gate there. So I had to one hand shimmy the grill past and then put the grill back up onto the grill. So you're probably asking yourself, did you take the grill home smoking like that? Sure did. I was very careful. Usually when I am doing events, I'm not that far from home and it isn't as big of a deal. But this particular charcoal, again, lesson learned with the lump charcoal, it flung out ash everywhere. So to the point where I will probably be bringing with me some sort of pail, like a metal trash can, to put the ash into and take it when I take the grill back home. Had to shimmy the gate over a little bit, load everything up. But yes, I did not have very much problem with it. I just kind of took my time because, as of course I'm driving down the road, it's putting air into the cooking chamber. And when I say it was hot, it was hot. Almost finished getting everything loaded. And put the tables into the car. Bingo bango. Get me into the car. Oh, the apron off first. Get me into the car. Call it a day. Good night. Goodbye.
More butter, baby.